In the morning when I rise, give me Jesus.
Good morning. Well, yesterday we witnessed the first church split, and it was not pretty. Paul and Barnabas were at odds about John Mark because John Mark had not visited all the places where they had gone to start churches and spread the gospel. And so when Paul wanted to revisit all those places, he did not want to take John Mark because John Mark had not been with him the whole time. Well, Barnabas was really connected to John Mark, and so he took John Mark and they went one direction, and Paul took Silas, who had gone with them from the apostles when they went to Antioch to deliver a letter. And so Silas and Paul, they went another direction, but both groups were spreading the gospel, talking about the love of God. See, God's going to bring good out of things that happen no matter what the enemy tries to do. Well, today we start chapter 16, and we're going to talk about behavior a little bit. We're in verses 1 through 3, and here's what they say. Paul came also to Derbe and to Lystra, and a disciple was there named Timothy, the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek. All right, so we got a problem here. He's a Greek, so he hasn't been circumcised. Verse 2, he was well spoken of by the brethren who were in Lystra and in Iconium. You know, it's a little bit incredible that Paul is back in Derbe and Lystra and Iconium because that's where he was stoned and left for dead. But he went back to preach the gospel and to encourage those in the church that he had started. Now, let's see what happens with Timothy because Paul's really excited about Timothy. Verse 3, Paul wanted this man to go with him, and he took him and had him circumcised because of the Jews who were in those parts, for they all knew that his father was a Greek. Well, the Jewish folks weren't going to listen to Timothy if he wasn't circumcised. You remember that's the conversation that you get from a lot of Judaizers. Oh, absolutely Jesus, but you still got to follow the law, and in particular, you've got to be circumcised. And so, for the sake of the authority that Timothy would carry, Paul had him circumcised. Well, you don't do behavior things to try to please God. Paul didn't do this to please God. He did this for the sake of the gospel, to spread the gospel so that Timothy would move with authority. Well, we see that Paul went like that almost everywhere he went, and we see it in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. I'm going to read verses 20 through 23. Listen to this. Paul says this, to the Jews I became a Jew, so that I might win Jews to those who are under the law, as under the law, though not being myself under the law, so that I might win those who are under the law. See, he wants to look like a Jew. Well, actually, he is a Jew, but it's not important to him anymore, but it's important that he let the Jewish people know that he's Jewish, and even so, it's all about Jesus. And so he's willing to be whatever he needs to be for the sake of those who are hearing his message. Verse 21, to those who are without the law, as without the law, though not being without the law of God, but under the law of Christ, so that I might win those who are without the law. To the weak I become weak, and I might win the weak. I have become all things to all men, so that I may by all means save some. And I do all things for the sake of the gospel, so that I may become a fellow partaker of it. See, Paul was all about spreading the gospel. So where are you? Are you willing to be all things to all people for the sake of sharing the love of God? Paul was, and so was Timothy. So he was willing to be circumcised so that as he went and spread the gospel to Jewish folks, they would listen to him because he had been circumcised. Well, God bless you who wants folk to hear the good news of the gospel, the great news of the gospel, and receive the love of God that will change a heart and begin eternal life for everyone who receives. I look forward to being with you again tomorrow. Come be with us. I'll see you then.
Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world, but give me Jesus.